Thank you. I never write down my speeches. I almost wish I did tonight. But the thought that came in my mind was Martin Luther King's mountaintop speech in 1968 in Memphis, Tennessee. And you know, in the speech, he says that he's been to the mountaintop and he's seen the promised land, and that he was not fearing any man. You know, what are the other values in this speech? He said that, you know, he wanted to live a long life, that longevity is something that we all dream about. But he sort of knew that that wouldn't happen. But what he was fighting for were the sanitation workers in Memphis at the time. And the sanitation workers were African-American men who were working and slaving and couldn't even put food on the table. So the two thoughts that came out of it was that here is a man who is willing to give his life for something bigger than himself. And these sanitation workers who then were carrying picket signs that said, "I am a man." And by the way, the next day, Martin Luther King was assassinated. I grew up in abject poverty. And I always remembered being invisible. It wasn't that you were just less than, or you didn't have, or you just had to work hard. You just didn't exist. And people don't understand that when you grow up poor, you don't have access to anything. My father, when his gallbladder was bothering him, he had an infection, he had to get up, walk 3 miles to the hospital in 12-degree weather, got to the hospital to sit for another 5 hours before the doctor said, "You gotta go home. You look like you're a drug addict." He leaves the hospital. He walks 3 miles back home. He sits for another 3 days before gangrene starts setting in. Then he walks back to the hospital, and they finally admitted him. That is the dignity that gets taken away from you when you don't have any money. You don't have access to health care. You have no food. I have scurried in garbage bins for food. I have fallen asleep within 10 minutes of being at school because I had no food. I would walk to school with shoes that had holes in the bottom. So by the time I got to school, literally, I basically was walking in my socks. Worthiness is not a prerequisite. There is nothing that you should have to earn in order to feel that you are worth it, okay? I fight for the 46 million people who live in poverty in this country because I am motivated by that one picture you saw of me when I was 5. It's the only picture I have as a child. And when I put my feet on the ground, as soon as I wake up in the morning, she is there. She talks to me. She tells me when I start whining about being on the Sunset Gower Studios for 18 hours playing Annalise Keating, and I'm like, "Oh, 18 hours. She says, "Well, you remember when you didn't have any food?" "Oh, I know, but this another person putting a mic in my face, I can't accept any more awards. I just want to be a regular person." "You remember when you wanted to be someone? Remember when the social worker came to your house and you had no running water, no phone, rats jumping on you?" Come on, Viola. I fight for her. I have 2 mottos for 2017, and they are, I'm doing the best I can, and I'm going to leave it all on the floor. The journey for all of us is, I have to say, I was at a party and I sat next to a guy who ended up being a life coach. That's pretty horrific, by the way. But, and so I was whining and whining about being unfulfilled. Oh my God, I'm tired. It wasn't this is not what I thought it would be, you know, celebrity, you know, da-da-da-da-da. He said, Viola, that's because we all work for success. That's what we want. I know that's what I wanted. I wanted to be a star. Because I wanted a house. I wanted to be able to buy furniture that I didn't get on the side of the road or at Salvation Army. I wanted a full refrigerator full of food. But he said, the reason why people feel unfulfilled, Viola, is because they all forget the last step. And that's significance. I'm telling you, the one thing that little girl could not do, 2 words, is say, help me. I couldn't. I was a child of poverty and an alcoholic. So then it's up to you. As they say, failure is divided into 2 classes. Those who thought but never did, and those who did but never thought. So it's up to you. What that little girl needs is your empathy, your insight, your willingness to jump into that call to adventure and live a life bigger than yourself, because that girl could not be this girl without an advocate. I thank you to the ACLU for this honor. I cannot believe Maxine Waters presented me this award. Thank you so much. Listen, I feel like I found my tribe in this room, and I found that, you know, it's sort of my job to do what I do, so it's hard for me to get an award for it. I feel like that's why I was born. Thank you.